president talking about fraud.
That is part of it, and they're working on
I
it.
hadn't heard you mention it.
That's because that's been there for a long time,
But
and
looks
they're
like-
actively, they've been actively working on that.
Are they doing something about it?
Oh, yeah. They're doing a lot about it. They need more people, but they're doing a lot
If they
about
could
it.
get rid of the fraud, I don't think it'd be in such a bad shape.
Honestly, it still would be at the prices that we have. But we need, not that we need to do it, because we do, but waste, fraud, and abuse, that big grab bag, is a political statement. Politicians been saying that about Medicare for 20 years. Medicare is going after the fraudulent people. There's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of intelligent people out there that are criminals that are trying to find ways. Medicare is a cash cow for these people. If they can figure out how to do it, and they're doing it, and their government's going after them. They can't catch them all, but they're trying.
Pardon.
Yeah.
My name is Joe Redmarker. I'm a retired newspaper publisher. So you being a physician, heart physician, you ought to know I was born with a tetralogy of Fallot,
Wow.
and I'm almost 80 years old.
You still have it, or they fixed it?
They fixed it,
Good.
but I'm almost 80 years old now. It is my opinion that there's much more fraud going on in Medicare than you realize. Now, I can cite you 5 examples personally that I believe there's a lot of fraud in. And I don't want to take up a lot of time here. I'll
No,
be
you
happy
should.
to
That's
talk to
okay.
you afterwards. But as a newspaper publisher, let me cite you one of the personal examples of what I think is chronically the matter with our Medicare and our Social Security system. I used to have, we employed our motor route drivers as newspapers. And we had this young gal. She was an excellent employee that rode a motor route for us, was an employee. And all of a sudden she quit. We never did know why, she just quit. But hated to see it, she was an excellent employee. It wasn't about 6 months after she quit that I got an inquiry on my desk from the Social Security Administration wanting a record of her wages. Well, I ignored it because we were required quarterly to report the wages. They, our Social Security Administration, would have had her in it, so I ignored it. Well, about 3 or 4 months later than that, here come another one. Same thing, wanting to know the record of her earnings. I ignored it. Well, about a month after that, her father called me on the phone. He said, "Joe, did you get a request from the Social Security requesting my daughter's earnings?" I said, "Yes, I did," but I said, "We send those to her." So that really got my suspicion up, and I said, "By the way, is your daughter trying to get Social Security disability?" And he said, "Yes." And so that really got my suspicion up, because I didn't know she had a disability at all. So I said, "Do you mind telling me what her disability is?" And you know what he said? "She's a slow learner." I thought, for God's sake, I'm qualified for that. She got Social Security.
I believe it. Social Security fraud and disability fraud is a different issue than Medicare.
I know it.
But it's a big problem.
Now let me tell you some of the
So I know there's a
Medicare.
lot of problems. I'm not saying there's not a lot of problems. What I'm saying is the government I said they need more people, but they are trying to find these people.
One of the things that galls me to the quick is the TV. You see these hover rounds being advertised for people that can't get around. Now, I don't mind anyone that's legitimately disabled having a hover round, but I see right here in this county, a lot of the, if you'll pardon me, the fat asses that's got these blame hover rounds and don't need them any more than I do. They're just too unable to get off their air, and them things cost a lot of money. Now, if they would get serious about giving me hover rounds, be all right. And also, I'm a diabetic. So 5 years ago, they gave me a thing to prick my finger with. Now, it don't hurt anything, but I see advertised on TV, these new ones are less prick, less stick. So what do? They call me and wanting to know if I want a new thing. I told them no, the one I got works perfectly. They ought to be some way to monitor that.
All of what you just said, I agree with. And is true.
When I was in
and they need more people. The part of it is the basic
If you add
CMS.
more people, how are you going to handle cost?
Yeah.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to keep adding cost, we've already got a bureaucracy that has taken so many people away from the patient's bedside. How can you do good patient care?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I was talking about, as far as people that are available to investigate this type of stuff.
Another perfect
They got a
example.
big problem with it. There's a bunch of people that defraud the disability
Yeah.
part of Social Security.
Yeah, but you know, the system is so bureaucratically laden, and you
It
know
is.
from being there.
Oh, yeah.
We need to
That
do
the
something.
the amount of people that you have to manage that, it is,
I know.
I mean, you know, with the HIPAA and now with the electronic medical record and, you know,
No, I'm on board with you all, with them.
You know-
We're on the same side on all those issues, I know. And the EMR is not gonna save us any money, it's probably gonna cost us money. I mean, I tried to tell them in DC that that's the case. None of them communicate with each other for the most part, and the privacy issues are huge, and there's gonna be privacy breaks and stuff. They don't understand that.
They ought to have to document some of these things. I had another case when I was in Florida. I get my drugs at CVS. So I walked in there one day and they had a big sign up about free cholesterol, free sugar, and all this kind of stuff on a certain day. So I thought, well, I'll go in there and get tested on that particular day. So I went in there, and the first thing they wanted to know was my social security number. So it really wasn't free. What they wanted to do was bill Medicare for that. This type of fraud is rampant in the system.
I don't disagree with you.
But what are we doing about it? You know, I think the thing that frustrates the average citizen today is the fact they see no hope of things changing.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, I'm new to Congress. I've been there 8 months.
I know.
We're trying to deal with this stuff. It's a huge problem. We're in a lot more trouble than people realize at the federal level. I just said this at a forum right before up in Rockville where I came here. When I got there to DC, we're in a lot more trouble than you think. Now you recognize it, others recognize it, but we're in a lot more trouble on multitude of levels. One of the problems is with some of the stuff you're talking about, you think it's fraudulent, I think it's fraudulent, but most people don't. If you talked about that person you said that got disability, I bet you, if you surveyed people, you'd get more than 50% of people that say that person deserved it. I bet you. And that's part of the problem. Same thing's true with the thing you said where CVS cover rent, okay? If you surveyed even seniors probably, I bet you would get the majority that would say that that's great. We should be able to get those for free for anybody that wants them.
But those people.
And I'm just telling you, that's
for
what
other
we're
people.
doing. What I'm telling you is that's the type of stuff where I agree with you. As a doctor, that kind of stuff drives me crazy because people that truly deserve the stuff can't get it.
Yeah.
But the problem is in our country with some of that stuff is why you're frustrated, why it doesn't change, because there's not broad agreement across the population of what constitutes wrongdoing. Nobody sees a problem with a lot of that stuff. Now, stuff where somebody sets up a fake office in a strip mall, and say they're seeing patients and they bill Medicare, everybody would agree that's fraud.
Yeah. There was a big expose.
I mean, that's happening
60
everywhere. And let me
minutes.
tell you, that's the type of people that Medicare is catching. You know, the stuff like you're talking about, yeah, there's a disagreement on whether it's right or wrong. And what I think, you know, and where I talked about the overall cost of healthcare and personal responsibility right at the beginning, unless people out there say, you know what, I'm not going to, you know, I know there are people that truly need this scooter from Medicare, and I don't, and I'm not going to order one because I know it jacks up the cost for everybody. Until people there are people out there start saying that, we can't fix it. And you know, we can't. If for me, for example, that particular one does irk me too.
That what?
That particular issue does irk me also. It irks everybody. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody like me would try to tackle that issue, it's impossible. It's impossible to tackle. You know why? Because the majority of people, probably 70 or 80% of people out there, would say that you're doing that because, you know, and that's gonna affect our seniors, and they're not gonna have access to that when they really need it. Or they're, are disabled. That's that's where your frustration comes in, is that, so we have to have a bigger conversation with the American people. It's gonna take a long time, it's not gonna be overnight. That if we're gonna get control of the healthcare costs, we can't be doing that kind of stuff.